Hi, short video for today. I just noticed on the discussion board that things were starting to wrap up, so I'm transitioning over to the next case study. Looking at the Forsaken Honor case study, as people started out, I thought that you did a good job of trying to cast things within these different lenses and that Bowman and Deal provided. And as you went through and looked at what other people wrote, the group started to coalesce on some middle ground on how they viewed the actions of this president. One of the interesting elements of this is that of fairness. As you looked at what kind of opportunities are afforded those with a privileged status, in this case those of an athlete, and how we look at equality versus fairness differently. In this particular case, there's an opportunity for you to have some sympathy for some of the different actors, while at the same time a lot of you tacked pretty closely to the idea of what kind of policies are established, what kind of policies should be established ahead of time. And that's an interesting idea when we think about things like zero tolerance policies. How closely are we wedded to our policies? I don't know if it applies in this case, but what if you come across a policy in your own position of leadership that doesn't fit the situation, but there isn't another policy that does? How deftly do you navigate those things? What do you rely on to help you navigate those waters? Well, that's when things start to get even more complex. Now, in this next case that you're transitioning to, it's the Mean Girls case, otherwise known as the Fab 5 case. It got some media attention a couple years ago, and so you may be familiar with it when you start to dig into the material a little bit. This also deals with students with some status within a school and how their behavior is handled by teachers and administration. So I'm interested to see what, if any, kind of parallels you make in the way that you're thinking about them. In my directions on the discussion board, I've given you an opportunity now where in the past I've asked you to think specifically about what are the different stages of decision making, or to think about a schema theory, or to think about the Bowman and Deal frames theory. Now I'm very explicit about telling you that I'm looking for you to see what applies. So look at these different things, these different lenses that we've worked with in class, and which ones do you gravitate towards as you're looking at the case? And how does that help you think through how the leaders in this situation could have handled it more effectively? Just some housekeeping notes. There is no Illuminate session this week, as I mentioned earlier. And as a second housekeeping note, just a reminder, I mentioned this at the beginning of the semester, but just as a reminder, all of the grades are on the Blackboard website. So if you log into the Blackboard course website and you were curious or you had any concerns, I got an email about this, which is why I'm responding here in the video. You can look it up in Blackboard and you can see how you're doing in class, and that's been up all semester long, so there's been a running total of how you've been doing. And my sense is that you probably know how you're doing in class, but if you were curious and you wanted to see how the points are adding up, feel free to do that on the Blackboard site. If you have any questions or concerns about that, just give me an email, and I'll try to answer any of your questions. As usual, really good job. I'm going to add one thing to this Mean Girls discussion board, and that's that on day 2 of the thread, which is going to be Thursday, day 4 of the week, when you're reflecting back on what other people have written, I'd like one or two of you to step forward in the discussion thread and start to pull together some of the pieces that you're seeing come up as common themes, and see if you can, through a leadership position on the discussion thread, drive the group towards some sort of consensus. I'm not going to choose anybody to do that. I'm looking for a couple of you to try to step forward and do that yourselves on the discussion board. But I'm looking for somebody to, when you're reflecting upon what the comments that people are making, to try to provide a recap of common themes and direction as if you were a group who was trying to decide what should have happened here. I'm curious to see if the group, rather than what has been good in the past, which is just responding to each other and everybody sort of going off into separate camps, if we can push each other a little bit to see if we can drive towards some consensus. So that's the next level of discussion I'll be looking for in the next discussion thread. Good luck, enjoy reading the case, and I'm looking forward to seeing you online.